If we could now talk about jury revolution.
Sure. Okay, jury revolution is a term that I coined, at least I think I coined it.
Mm-hmm.
And what it means, it's inherent within jury education. What it means is creating a peaceful revolution with jury nullifications. A jury revolution is basically holding the intent within our mind that we're not going to stop until we take our freedom back using jury nullifications. Jury revolution can also be defined as massive numbers of jury nullifications happening. A jury revolution can happen in as little as one state. In other words, it doesn't have to be going on coast to coast, at least not initially. A jury revolution happening in one state can become national news and could gain millions of dollars worth of publicity, free publicity, and free education nationwide by getting picked up by national media outlets. Right. And there's a couple of other things that a jury revolution is too.
Well, it's a massive change in consciousness.
That's correct.
If everybody's talking about it,
that's right.
Everybody knows about it.
That's another definition of it. That's another definition of jury revolution.
Right.
It's what everybody is talking about.
Right.
Everybody's talking about the jury, and that will. Here's another thing: the jury educators do not have to create the jury revolution. I believe we just get it going, and then the news media will take over. You start having jury nullifications happening, and if we got any kind of brains at all, we can parlay those jury nullifications into lots of publicity. How do we do that? We send notification of it to various media outlets around the country, friendly media outlets, bloggers, websites, and the mainstream media will cover it whether they want to or not. They may be sarcastic or snarky or snide
right.
about it, but it's like I said, there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Right. Just
spell the name right. Jury revolution. Jury nullification.
Yeah.
And so that's what it is. It's an attitude that we have, and then it is a development or a goal that we have, and then it is a development that we create. All these jury nullifications. A jury revolution in one state could go national without the jury educators on the ground really doing a lot of work, just by having the effect of the media. Things get around. Things become news, and friendly websites will do our work for us. One of the things that my conservative friends, one of the attitudes they have is, well, we just can't educate that many people. You know, it's impossible. That's nonsense. We don't have to educate, again, repeating myself, we don't have to educate everybody. All we have to do is educate a critical mass in as little as one state. And then the jury nullifications, I say, pop in like popcorn. Oh, here's another aspect of a jury revolution. The courthouse is paralyzed.
Right.
The docket is full.
The prisons are full.
Well, no, the prisons don't have to be full.
Right.
The prisons can be empty.
Right.
The courthouse docket is full. So when another defendant sits in court and says, Your Honor, I demand trial by jury, and they can offer him some kind of lowball deal. Mm-hmm. You know, they're offering him a fine of $50, and the average fine is $1,000. They're lowballing the hell out of him, and he just says, Nope, jury trial. And the judge brings his gavel down and goes, Case dismissed. And the court erupts into raucous laughter again. The prosecutor sitting over at his table sweating bullets.
Right.
The defense lawyers are sitting in the back of the court snickering under their breath.
Yeah.
And the judge is is fantasizing about early retirement. That's a jury revolution. Those are some aspects of a jury. That's some evidence that a jury revolution is happening.
Yeah. Another argument against it is the time and money it'd take to educate everyone.
I already got into that a little bit, but it takes less time and money than we would think. For the cost, here's a way you can say it. For the cost of being on defense, here's another important part. As a jury educator, you're on offense. You're not on defense. You are creating a condition in America where no bad law can be enforced again. You do it in one way. You just tell people about their power to nullify laws that they don't like. They already know the laws they don't like. They already know the laws they hate. And when they get on a court, on a jury, they're going to have their nose pushed even deeper into how hateful and disgusting these laws are, how ridiculous they are, how tyrannical they are. So jury education is being on offense. It's not being on defense.
Difference between jury nullification and a hung jury.
Okay, a jury nullification is an acquittal. It is a unanimous verdict.
Okay.
A conviction is a vote of 12-0 or 6-0 for a conviction. A jury nullification is an acquittal, and that's 12-0 or 6-0, depending upon how many's on the jury.
Which means he can't be tried again.
Which means he cannot be tried again.
It's over.
It's over.
Okay.
Right. Now, he can be tried again if he does it again.
Right.
All right? And if I get jury nullified, they can try you the next week for the same thing.
Same crime.
Because jury nullified, don't let me forget to, let me digress. A hung jury simply means a failure to reach a unanimous verdict. It's essentially like a mistrial.
Okay.
All right. A hung jury is jury nullification light. It is a win for us if the law is bad.
Right.
Okay. If it's a bad law. Now, if it's a rape trial or something, and there is a hung jury, that is going to mean that the jury could not agree on whether the cop or the victim or the defendant was telling the truth.
Right.
All right? That's a different deal. So hung juries are not necessarily jury nullifications or jury nullifications light, and acquittals are not necessarily jury nullifications.
Right.
All right?
And if it's just a hung jury...
A hung jury in a case where the law is bad is sending back valuable feedback back to the prosecutor and to the judges.
Right.
All right. Jury nullifications don't have set any legal precedent.
Okay.
So what they do is they have powerful psychological effect upon prosecutors and judges. They don't want to have a jury nullification happen to them ever, and they don't want to have another one happen to them. And when jury nullifications are happening in the land, other prosecutors and other judges and other cops and other bureaucrats are watching this, and they don't want none of it to come into their life. And so what happens is that people begin to voluntarily choose to stop enforcing certain laws. Because jury nullifications are feedback back to the government. You enforce this law, you're going to get your teeth kicked in.
Right.
It's going to be bad for your political career. A prosecutor is facing an election coming up, and he's just like a bulldog, and he just keeps enforcing, but he keeps getting jury nullified. He's going to become a very unpopular guy. He's going to come to the attention of columnists and stuff in the local newspaper. They're going to start writing laws or articles about this guy saying how out of touch he is. And so he may lose the election. And so that's the power that jury nullifications have, and hung juries have that power. They're just not as emphatic.
Right.
In the case of getting back to the history, In the 1920s, we had prohibition of alcohol. Prohibition of alcohol was by constitutional amendment. So, by the way, this proves that the jury is above the Constitution. My conservative friends who say that juries decide on whether or not a law is constitutional or not don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
The jury is actually superior to the Constitution. It is judges who are confined by the Constitution, or supposed to be confined by the Constitution. But juries are not confined by the Constitution. They do not reason that the law is unconstitutional. They reason that this law sucks. This law is tyranny. We're not going to live under this law. They don't care, and it doesn't matter whether the law is constitutional or not. When the Constitution was amended to make alcohol illegal, the next several years involved 1 million trials under those prohibition laws, and approximately 500,000 of them were jury nullifications or hung juries. And the only reason it lasted as long as it did and as many trials as it did, which contradicts what happened with William Penn and what contradicts what happened with John Peter Zinger and contradicts what's happened in other cases, is because practically every serious church member in America for like 2 generations had been working on making liquor illegal. Okay? They had their whole heart and mind and soul all wrapped up in this.
Sure, sure.
Okay? And a lot of these Christian temperance people, you know, they were preachers and wives of preachers and church ladies. These people were the mothers and fathers of the judges and the cops and the prosecutors. All right?
Nice, yeah.
All right?
I hear you.
So they were being like emotionally driven to enforce the law, even though they were getting clobbered in court. And in certain states, they were getting clobbered worse than in other states. I grew up in Mississippi. Mississippi had prohibition of alcohol up until when I was in college. Of course, there were illegal bootleggers in about every other county, but still, officially, the state was dry. Okay? Whereas Louisiana was wide open, and Louisiana probably threw prohibition away about 5 minutes after it was enacted, you know, back in the 1920s, because Louisiana is just at least southern Louisiana, okay, New Orleans, Baton Rouge. So certain states stop enforcing certain laws before other states, and that's just a fact. That's the way it ought to be. That is the way it ought to be, because the laws that people live under should be appropriate for the culture of the particular area.
Right.
Okay? Just like in Idaho, they're not going to be able to enforce gun laws.
Right.
But they will be in some states.
Right.
Because the people are brainwashed and stupid in those states, and the states are highly urban. Okay? And other reasons like that.
Sure. Jury nullification really brings us back to common law, doesn't it?
Yes.
That's
Well, it brings us back. Okay, I'm not an expert on common law, but it brings us back to common sense.
Right. Well, I think it's...
It brings us back to common sense. As a matter of fact, the whole reason that we have jury trials is so that the common sense and the conscience of the people will enter into the decision.
Right.
The conscience and the common sense of the people. That is why it is immoral and absolutely intolerable for judges to sit on the bench and tell jurors that they must ignore their conscience and common sense and enforce the law as given. This is immoral. It is intolerable. And I have talked to more than one person who is angry, furious, full of rage, full of deep regret and guilt because they were tricked by a judge 20 years before I ever met them. They were tricked by some judge into making a vote that they have regretted the rest of their life because they violated their conscience and their common sense. They did something that they consider to be immoral. Judges are destroying trial by jury, they are destroying liberty and freedom, and they're actually destroying people when they force them, the one time in their life, probably, where they sit on a jury, they commit an act that they are ashamed of, that they're angry about.
Right. I keep remembering that time I went on jury selection, and they tried to get us, lean us towards conviction even before the jury was selected or the trial started or anything.
Right. I want to say a little bit more about the jury tampering. When people are on,
it is tampering, right?
Yes.
What they initially do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's jury tampering, and the judge, the judge will deny it. What I have to say to any judge is, come debate me. Come and debate me.
Right.
Come into a forum like on talk radio where I get to talk 50% of the time, you talk 50% of the time, and you can bring every other judge you want with you. I get to talk 50% of the time, and you liars in black robes get to talk 50% of the time, and I will beat you like a drum because I got all the truth on my side, and what judges have on their side is nothing but lies. Here's another thing that needs to be said. There's 2 or 3 things that keep popping into my mind. I want to talk about the jury and God.
Okay.
I want to talk about the jury and the Holy Spirit. It is on the jury that the Holy Spirit enters into our legal system more unencumbered, less encumbered than any other place. The Holy Spirit can have an effect upon a cop, can have an effect upon a bureaucrat, can have an effect upon a judge or a prosecutor, can have an effect upon a politician. But it is on the jury that the Holy Spirit, that means God's prompting to do the right thing, where that prompting enters into the system and determines what the system ultimately does, less encumbered by ambition, greed, corruption, dishonesty, etc. So I want to say that to my Christian friends. It's the jury where the Holy Spirit comes into our legal system, and we need to respect it, and we need to know more about it. And we can encourage that to happen more and more by giving people knowledge about their power as jurors, and then giving them confidence to use that power.
To learn more, what should people read or study? Do you have any books in specific? You mentioned a few. You want to...
Well, the internet is king now.
Right.
Okay, here's what this is my opinion on what people should do to educate themselves. First of all, there's a lot of articles on the internet now. There's a lot of newer articles that are appearing. I have recently done a search for jury nullification, gun laws, jury nullification, Obamacare, jury nullification, IRS. Okay? You'll find a lot of articles that have appeared in the last 3 or 4 years. Back in the golden age of FIJA in the early and mid-90s, there were a lot of articles, but this was pre-internet. Okay? A lot of those articles are not on the internet. Some of them have been added later. People laboriously typed them in or whatever. What people need to study, in my opinion, is they need to read a couple of 3 of these basic little blurbs written by a columnist. This is one is written by Joseph Sobran back in 1991.
Okay.
Okay. I printed 20,000 of these once. This is one that a young guy that I knew put in a newspaper that doesn't even exist anymore. It's a great article. Okay. A lot of there's full pagers out there. Go on to the internet and just search for jury nullification, gun laws, if that's what you're interested in.
Right.
Vitamin, tax laws, IRS, and read some stuff. The typical general article will cover some quotes and will cover some history. Then the next thing you need to read is you need to just go and read the entire history of jury nullification. Again, normally it's on the internet. I've found some obscure historical information that someday I'm going to incorporate, but the typical blurb is about 2 pages long. It's not very much. It just bam, 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 bam. The important trials. Mm-hmm. Those are important things to know. And then the thing to read is the quotations. Start with the short quotations. Don't get bogged down into the long ones with the flowery 18th century verbiage in there.
Right.
Just read the short ones that are fairly easy to read. Those are the things to do. For people to read, I write about jury revolution. So, and that is using jury education in a really dynamic way. The kinds of things I've talked about. Going to their churches, going to their kids' schools, having real hardball, hard-hitting signs at courthouses and things like that. If people search for the term jury revolution, again, my name's Dwight Callaway.
Okay.
If you search for jury revolution, you'll find my writings, and I've got about a 20-page essay posted on the internet, and it's worth reading too.
Okay, cool. I guess that's about it. There you have it. On the bottom here should be Mr. Callaway's email address. In the description of the video, we're going to have some other websites you might check out and study further on jury nullification. We got to get the word back out. Everybody used to know about it, but because of the school system and government and the court system, they bled it out of everybody's brain, didn't they? But yeah, study. And like I say, you have to control your own destiny. No one can make you free but you. Good luck.